What up? A video game phenomenon I've experienced over the course of my lifetime is like watching the Mother series grow in popularity and public knowledge. So like like the Mother game that a lot of people knew about was Earthbound, that being Mother 2, the second game in the Mother series. And the reason a lot of people only really knew about Earthbound was because Mother 1 and Mother 3 were not officially released in the US for the longest time, but Earthbound was. And it was people's only real exposure to the Mother series overall. And, it's fine enough. Earthbound, from what I've heard, is a really great game. Interestingly enough, it's the only game of the Mother series that I haven't, completely played through and beaten. Mother 3, I've beaten at least twice. And Mother 1, which is the subject of this video, I've beaten once. I beat it a long time ago when I was a kid, so my memory of it might be a little bit fuzzy. But I had such an interesting and unique experience of a video game for me that I just really want to share it with the world. Like I said, I've watched the Mother series become more mainstream, more people know about it, making art of it, doing all that kind of stuff, and Mother 1 is no exception. Mother 2 and Mother 3, Earthbound and Mother 3, I guess you would say, for an audience, are really popular. You get a lot of people talking about, the story of Mother 3, the localization, the history, the fan-made translation, which was the version I played through, barring any official Nintendo release. Don't strike me down, Nintendo, but I did play the Mother series on emulators on computers. So, that is my experience. So it might be a little bit different for people who play it on console or handheld, but I did play it on emulator, so I was able to make save states, which I'm usually mostly against, but in the case of Mother 1, I'll explain it. Yeah. So, you can't come at me for being oh, you didn't genuinely play the game, you didn't get the full experience. I got the fun experience, and I think that's the experience that matters. Alright, so let's get into it. So, Mother 1 was actually released really late to the NES's life cycle, I guess you could say. Because, I don't know, Earthbound was released moderately into the SNES's life cycle. Mother 3 GBA's life cycle just went on for forever, all of Nintendo's consoles after, the Advance, DS, 3DS, all the DSs, those lasted forever. So, I don't know, but Mother 1 is definitely released later into the NES's life cycle. And you can tell, it really does, do a lot of stuff you didn't see in a lot of NES games. You've got, fairly detailed sprites. You can absolutely tell what everything's supposed to be by looking at it. Because the game is split up into two sort of gameplay sections. There's the overworld sections, where you move around like a player character, you visit towns, you navigate mazes. The game has a lot of mazes. And, you do that. And then there's the battle system, where you can't see your characters, but you can see a much more detailed sprite of the enemies. I will get into the battle system. The battle system is good. A lot of what you'll hear about Mother 1 is about how, difficult and unforgiving the battle system is. And yes, the battles are extremely difficult. It's unforgiving. But I will get into it. Okay, but first I'd like to talk about, the story of the game. For those of you who have played Earthbound, the story of Mother 1 is going to sound pretty similar, but do keep in mind that Mother 1 came first, and Earthbound really does feel like a retelling of the events of Mother 1, with slightly different characters, slightly different MacGuffins, and, surprisingly, the same final boss. The same character, that is. It's not the same boss fight, but it is the same character as the villain between Mother 1 and Mother 2. Alright, so when the game starts out, you get the title screen, you get, the little logo with its mother, or if you're in, America, Earthbound Zero, like the little planet, upside down actually. Um, an upside down Earth being the logo for the Mother series, I think that's really cool. You know, because it's like from the aliens' point of view, not really knowing what it is. I don't know. It's a lot of theory, mumbo jumbo stuff. Whatever. But so the game starts out, you get the opening text crawl. Basically, it tells the story of how, there was this couple, George and Maria. In the 80s, they were abducted. They were taken up by aliens. George came back, Maria did not. And, from there on, it was, a bit of a mystery. Like, what happened? You know? Alright. And then we get into the game. I could be wrong on this, but part of the game's whole thing. No, never mind. That's stupid. But whatever. So, game starts out. You are Nintendo. Oh, forgot to mention, you can name your characters. Just like in Earthbound, at the very beginning of the game, you're shown a bunch of characters, said, alright, here's this guy, here's this girl, here's this other guy, here's this fourth guy. What's your favorite food? It's a whole sort of thing. You get to name your characters. You don't get a ton of like character spaces to do everything, but you can. But I will be sticking with the canon names of the character. I'm not going to say the main character, the girl, the boy. I'm not going to say all that. So the canon names of the characters are Nintendo for the main character. I'll introduce the other characters as they come, but canonically, the main character's name is Nintendo, and his favorite food is roast beef, I believe. Hey, it's pretty good. All right, yeah, let's see. So, all right. So, game starts out. You're in your room. You're sitting down. You're doing whatever you do, and then before you know it, when you try to walk out of your room, your lamp starts flying all around the room, freaking out. Goes right and attacks you. So, you're Nintendo. You've got your trusty baseball bat. Alright, and so you smash the lamp. You do that. You run out of your room. Your mom's freaking out. Like, you're saying, something's going on. Things are flying around the house. Like, there's a poltergeist. You go to your you've got two little sisters in the game. You go to their rooms. You save them from a lamp in one of the rooms. And, there's a baby doll flying around in your other sister's room. And so you smash it up, you win. The baby doll is the first boss, but it's basically impossible to lose against it unless you're like actively trying to lose. Give me a second. Alright, but the important thing is, once you smash the baby doll, and you interact with it, you do actually have to physically interact with it. You don't automatically get it, which is a bit weird. It's very easy to miss if you don't know what you're doing. But you interact with the baby doll, and it plays a first little bit of a song. The first 4 notes, I believe. The screen goes all squiggly and everything. Like you're not sure what this means. You're not sure why you've just collected this thing, like this melody. It says, but you get that. You go see your family. You try and figure out what's going on, and it's just that you call your dad. Another thing that was copied over into Earthbound is having an absent father. Classic Mother series thing until Mother 3, where he becomes an absent father through the course of the story. But no. So you call your dad and all that stuff. Your dad's like, hey, you know what? It really sucks that that's going on, but you know what? Someone who might have known something about this was your great-grandfather. George. So it turns out that you, the player character Nintendo, are actually the great-grandson of, George, the guy who was mentioned in the opening crawl, who was abducted and then returned to Earth, while his wife never did. So, you learn about that, so you go downstairs into the basement, you fight a few rats, and you find, a few important things. But the most important thing to find is your great-grandfather's diary, which basically talks about, it basically says some cryptic riddle about, here's the things to do, it's a whole thing. It's not really important, but the main thing is you get your great-grandfather's diary, and you're told that he was studying like this thing called PSI, and it's saying, hey, that could be really cool, whatever, not really important. But so basically, from there on, you just sort of go out into the world. You don't really have a clear direction other than, your great grandfather studied PSI, something weird is going on, and people in the world might need your help. You know? So yeah, there's much less of a clear direction. Like in Earthbound, of course, you get Buzz, coming out saying, "Oh, Ness, I had a prophecy. There's a prophecy about you. You can save the world from Gygus." But in this game, there's not really a clear plot direction at the very beginning. You really are just venturing out of your home trying to figure out what's going on. There's much more of a mystery, I feel. Not to say that there isn't a mystery in like Earthbound, but there's a much more tangible at the beginning mystery in Motherplot. You know? So, alright, from there you go outside, and here's where the problems really start. The mystery, not a problem. The simple battle system, not really a problem. But you walk outside, you take 5 steps, and here comes Wally the farmer. And he, boom, bam, you're dead. Like in just a couple of hits. And you're like, okay. So you respawn at the house, or you run back to the house, you eat some roast beef, fully healed, you talk to your dad, you save the game. Oh, you also got an ATM card for like money and stuff. Okay, but so you go back out, here comes Wally, here comes some crows, here comes some random enemies. And I'm telling the truth, every 5 steps, it feels like every few seconds you're going to go into a battle. At this point in the game, you're very weak, like extremely so. And so after every battle, you've got to run back to your little home and, do all that kind of stuff. Just make sure that you're okay. Like, fully heal. Get all your stuff back. And, like, the battles are fun. But the fact is they happen so often, and they are so punishing that early in the game, that you really will need to fully heal between every 1 or 2 battles. So the very first part of the game is just you running in and out of your house trying to grind up enough levels to the point where you're not like instantly getting deleted by every enemy that you encounter. And you will encounter a lot of enemies. In the version of the game that I played, which I'm led to believe was the version released in Japan, just translated to English, so the A button does everything in the game, right? When you press the A button, a little menu comes up, says, all right, items, check, talk, options, all sorts of things. Like everything you do in the game is accessed by pressing the A button and then selecting what you want to do, pressing the A button again. The B button is the back button, of course, but it's also the speed up the game button. Not a run button. It does make you go faster, but it also makes everything else go faster. Something funny to do is just to stand still and hold the B button, and so all like the little NPCs will just still, because the game is sped up to, I believe, 2 times speed, could be 3 times speed, I'm not totally sure. But, so there is a way to move faster, but then you also get battles, proportionally as often. So it's a good way to grind the game, and it only works in the overworld, it does not work in the battles, I believe. But yeah, so, I don't know, so if you're trying to run, you're going to get battles even more often. So, I don't know, you just need to accept the fact that you're going to be getting a ton of battles in the game. I'm presenting this kind of negatively, and it does get a little grating, especially early in the game when it's so easy to die in a battle, but for the most part, the battles are fun. And Nintendo is the best, combat character in the game, because he has the strongest attacks, because he'll be the highest level, because you haven't put the whole game. I will get to that. Alright. But so, after that, you make it south. make it to the next town over, Marysville, I believe. I could be wrong on that. So you get there, and the first people you really meet are like this lady, and she's like, oh goodness me, like stuff's going so wrong, and hey, my daughter is missing. My daughter Pippi is missing. So, being the valiant young hero you are, you're like, hey, I'll save her. So, so you get into town, you know, you talk to people, and it's all like, oh, you should go check out the graveyard. There's stuff going on at the graveyard. I'm not sure if they even say that. I think you just do have to go to the graveyard to do what's next. Like I said, there's not a lot of direction in the game as to what you should do. You're really expected to explore and figure out the mystery. And so the graveyard is the game's first real maze. Okay, so you go there, you travel through. You have to loop around the whole thing. There's trees blocking your path. There's a bunch of graves. You're getting attacked by zombies, other whatever other spooky enemies. Yeah, and at this point in the game, you're not sure why these things are attacking you. And even when you're just walking, like the guy Wally, the farmer, he's attacking you. Animals are attacking you. Inanimate objects are attacking, like the doll and the lamp. But yeah, so it's definitely a whole thing. But so you're fighting a bunch of like mobster zombies that got shot to death, which was censored in the American version. They removed the gunshots and blood. But yeah, so you do that for a while. You go down to the basement. You open a few coffins, and you find Pippi hiding inside one of the coffins. She's like, "Oh, thank you, you saved me." She's like, you're so great." She actually asks you something important. She's like, "Oh, bet you think you're brave, huh?" And you can either be humble, or you can sort of brag about yourself. You can be like, "Yeah, I'm brave." If you don't choose to be humble, you do not get a very important item from her, because you might remember the Franklin badge from Earthbound, right? Pippi actually has a Franklin badge, but she will only give it to you if you choose to be humble when you first meet her. So do keep that in mind if you ever choose to play the game. So, alright, but no, so you get Pippi, and she actually is a party member. But something funny is she actually uses the same stats as another party member you get much later into the game. But you know how I said the game's really difficult, so you should really keep Pippi around and like fight zombies, fight animals, do all that kind of stuff while she's in the party, because not only will she level up very quickly, which will allow you to become like exponentially stronger, but it also just helps you because the game is difficult, and for a lot of the game, it's really just you and Ten, or you're the only party member. And honestly, for the rest of the game, you are the strongest, so you need those levels. So use Pippi, she levels up super fast, gets you a ton of experience. It's great. But no, so eventually you bring her back to her house. She reunites with her mom. If you were humble, she gives you the Franklin badge. I'll explain the function of the Franklin badge later. But no, so all that happens, you're feeling fine. Alright. Then you move on to Marysville proper. And so it's like, you talk to the mayor, and the mayor's like, "Oh, Ninten, you're a bright young lad. Listen, the town's in a bit of a pickle right now, We've got animals attacking. Like, the local zoo, completely screwed. Like, there's no saving it. The animals have gone crazy. They've broken out. They're attacking people. You got elephants and tigers, all sorts of stuff." And he's like, "Listen, could you take care of that problem for me, son?" Like, all sleazy like. And his assistant is like, "Yeah, okay, goodness sakes. Okay, listen, here's the key to the zoo. Go up there, deal with the problem, we'll give you some money, I guess." Alright, so you get out of there, you talk to people, and in the town, there are a bunch of different things. There's a general store, there's a doctor's office, there's a bunch of all sorts of stuff. That's pretty cool. And so here's what they all do. At the general store, you can buy, there's a bunch of different floors. You can buy healing items. You can buy like equipment. You can buy weapons. You can buy medicine. You can buy all sorts of stuff. And every town has one with slightly different lists and everything. My suggestion is to just fight a bunch of enemies, run back home, heal, go fight more, talk to your dad, get the money put into your account, go to the general store with your ATM card. Like the ATM card does take up an inventory slot. And you really don't have a lot of inventory slots, but trust me, you need to keep that ATM card around because when I played, I kept forgetting to keep the ATM card. I had to just store stuff at my house. And then it'd be like, oh, you can't buy anything because you don't have an ATM card to put money on. Also, keep your great grandfather's diary on you at all times. Right? And at least until you get to a certain point in the game. Okay. So, you do all that, like, all sorts of stuff. Right? So you buy some equipment, you get kitted out with the strongest stuff you can buy. You know, you get a bunch of healing items, because at this point in the game, you cannot heal. Right? You have to get to a higher level before you unlock spells that can do healing. And that is an interesting thing. I've always thought it's interesting throughout the Mother series that the main character is the healer of the group, right? Because usually you'd expect the main character to be the main damage, like the basic guy that you can get used to, and then one of the secondary characters would be like the healer, and another one would be like the utility guy. But in the Mother series, the main character is the healer, and then you have another guy who's the damage guy, another guy who's the utility guy. That doesn't hold as true with Mother 1 because you're also the strongest physical attacker of the group. So you're the smash stuff guy and the healing guy. But no, yeah. So you will have to grind up a bit more to get healing spells. So at this point, you want to get a bunch of healing items, right? The doctor's office. Here's how it works. So at this point in the game, if you die, you're dead. You lose a bunch of money. You know, you get sent back to your home. You have to walk all the way back. But once you get party members, right, you can take them to the doctors, pay an exorbitant amount of money, and get them revived, right? And, that's totally fine. You know what? It is a lot of money, but it is the only way to revive party members. I think. I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't played the game in a while. So I wouldn't say it's a problem, but given how easy it is for your party members to die, for a reason I'll explain later, it really does get to be a bit of a problem. But, as I'll explain later, there is a way to circumvent this. So, hey, you're great. Right, but whatever. So, you've gone around town, you've done everything you can, you get a bunch of items, you get upgraded equipment, and so you make your way to the zoo. You go up, you take a fork in the road, you go to the zoo, and you're like, hey, the zoo's locked, so you take the key, and then a monkey comes out of nowhere, snatches the key, runs away. But, it turns out the lock was busted anyway, so you just walk in. You fight a ton of, like, super souped up enemies that are all, like, tigers and elephants. Hyenas, real nasty things, This point in the game is when you're going to first start getting, like, your PSI spells, because as it turns out, Nintendo can use PSI, which adds to the mystery. You're thinking, wow, it's my great-great-grandfather was studying PSI, he and his wife were abducted by aliens. This is really interesting, like, what's going on? And Pippi couldn't use PSI, so this really, and no one else in the world seems to be able to use PSI either, so it's like, this is really something. So you fight a bunch of enemies, you use your defensive and healing spells to keep yourself alive, and, you finally get there, you never get the key back, never, but, you make your way to the central building of the zoo after going all these down. Oh, I will mention that I'm pretty sure Nintendo's canonical favorite animal is penguins, because you can look at the penguins. It's pretty cool. But no, eventually you get to the center base and you find the source that's making all of the animals go crazy, and it is the Starman Jr. He's pink. And he's just a little guy, But yep, this is the first appearance of the Starman in the series, and you know, uh, and I think this is the point at which the Franklin badge that you got from Pippi becomes useful, because I could be mistaken, but I think one of his attacks is um, Beam Gamma, which is an instant kill attack, right? So, but if you have the Franklin badge, then Beam Gamma is it automatically fails on you, and it reflects damage back at the attacker. So if you don't have Beam Gamma, the Franklin badge, you really just have to hope he doesn't use Beam Gamma. Otherwise, you're going to take like a huge amount of damage. I could be wrong. I could be thinking about Earthbound, but like I said, like, it's been a while since I played the game. But you have an epic confrontation with the Starman Jr. You bust his head in, and as a result, he gets out of there. All the animals go back to normal. It's really great, you know. And once you do that, you go to see the monkey, and the monkey sings a little song, and that is the third melody. And you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, I got the first melody from the doll, but this is the third melody, because in the menu, like, there's a little thing where it says you have the melodies, and like there's 8 of them. And you look, and now you have 1 and 3. And when this happened to me, I was like, where's the second melody? And I looked it up, and so it turns out, like, this thing that just looks like an optional diversion on the path to Marytown, or Eagletown, I have no idea. The names of the towns escape me. But you have to take that, and you have to go to Canary Village, which is just a village populated by a bunch of birds, and you use telepathy to talk to the birds, because that's another thing like that Nintendo can just do automatically, is be telepathic and talk to things because of the whole PSI thing with his grandfather. So you have to talk to all these birds. You said, "Hey, my little bird baby is missing. Can you go find the bird baby?" Um, and I think they actually sell the little bird baby at one of the general stores. It's like, hey, I found this little child. Do you want it? So you buy the bird baby, you bring it to Canary Village, you talk to the distraught mother, and she's so elated that she sings the second melody. Okay, whatever. Had to look that one up because the map does not like guide you to Canary Village at all. You have to be like, hey, what's this? So you take this whole diversion to this maze of forestry. And it is a bit of a problem. I would say that's definitely a problem, because the map is so nondescript. Everything looks the same as everything else, and what's a dead end, what's a diversion, and what's like important to the story is never fully explained to you. Like I said, it's building off that sense of mystery, but sometimes it's too much mystery, you feel me? Alright, so you've got 3 melodies, and you're thinking, hey, this is great. And then progress comes to a screeching halt. You are not going to get another melody for a very long time. Okay? So, here's how it all goes from here. So, you go report your success at the zoo to the mayor. He gives you like $100. That's pretty good. Yeah. You talk to everyone. Everybody's pretty happy. They're still a little like confused about whatever's going on, but like they're saying, hey, I'm feeling really great. And they say, hey, you should go ahead with everything you're doing and press on forward. So you do, and you find this little cave, right? And inside the cave, there's this very, very beautiful song playing. It's actually a leitmotif of the 8 melodies, which are, the main theme of the game. But so you go there, and you find this little weird, twisted crystal spire, and you're like, that seems pretty plot important, right? And you go, my great-grandfather's diary said something about this. So you have to pull out your great-grandfather's diary, use it, inspect the spire, and that will take you to the land of Magicant. Another thing that was brought over into Earthbound. But Magicant in Mother 1 is very different. Whereas Magicant in Earthbound is like this late game area that you run around in, you relive childhood memories, you see fears and people you know and all that kind of stuff. Magicant is another, it's like a hub area in the game. You can go there at a certain point anytime you want. The most powerful gear is sold in Magicant. There's a bunch of unique enemies, and a lot of the story, like plot hooks, happen in Magican. So it's a very important place to go. It's weird that you get the first three melodies before even going to Magican, like the first three MacGuffins of the game. But, it's not really important. Alright, so you use your great grandfather's diary, you make it to Magican, and it's like, wow, everything's hot pink, everything's, weird and bubbly. You meet the cat that swims on land. You know, you meet, the flying men. You meet all these citizens of Magic. They're all like wearing little wizard hats. They're really cute. They say all sorts of cryptic stuff, like all sorts of vague imagery. It's very surreal, I would say, Magic is. But who knows? So you're exploring this place. You go talk to a bunch of people. They they're all very peaceful, very docile. None of them are hostile to you in any way. They're all very, very nice. It is really a wonderful place, Magic Cannon, another one. You can walk around, you can talk to, like, these people called the Flying Men, which are little, like, bird people. Like, they've got their own little unique song. It's very nice. I'll explain songs, actually. This is a good place to bring it up. So, now, there are a few songs in the game. Like, there aren't a ton of them. Like, the OST is very memorable, very nice. You should listen to it. But they hired some, like, professional artists to do a lot of the songs. Let's see, the main theme of the game that plays when you're walking around in the overworld is called Pollyanna. And it's sung by Catherine Warwick. And, it's basically a song about how you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to be whimsical and, see the good in people and nature and all that kind of stuff. And it's a really infectious song, and it was so good that it was carried over into Earthbound. It actually makes an appearance in all three Mother games, so it's a very good bit of consistency. There's Being Friends, which is the overall theme that starts playing once you have partners. There's the Eight Melodies, of course, sung by a beautiful choir. There's the Paradise line, which plays when you're on trains. There's Flying Men, of course, theme of Flying Men. There's Magican, Wisdom of the World, theme of Queen Mary. We'll get to that in just a bit. There's just, All That I Needed Was You, great stuff. Alright, but no, so, okay, like, there's the game's NES OST, but then there's just the music made for the game. That's really, really good. I listen to it a lot. Am I crazy? Let's see. What was I talking about? Okay, so no, you get to Magican. You can walk around. There's a fountain with herbs that'll get you a bunch of healing items. There's the Flying Men that can accompany you on your journey in Magican but can't leave. They actually permanently die if they die in Magican. It's actually pretty sad. Can't be brought back to life. Okay, you can walk all around. There's this guy who's writing a song, whole bunch of stuff. And like I said, a bunch of great stores that have the most powerful gear in the game, which is kind of weird to give you the most powerful gear so early on. But it is very expensive, and you will need to do a lot of grinding in Magican, so we'll get into that. But the main focal point of Magican is, the castle of Queen Mary. Let's see. So you go there, and you walk through a bunch of halls. There's these, diamond-eyed guys that are the main servants of Queen Mary. Everyone's so friendly. Everyone's very nice. And you go talk to Queen Mary, and she's like, "Oh, hi, so nice to meet you." She's like, "Oh, I knew you would be coming. Welcome to Magican. You can have anything you want here. Everyone's so great." And you get a really good vibe from Magican. I like it. But so what she tells you is that she's suffering from amnesia. She can't remember very many things. But what she can tell you is that basically you need to go collect those 8 melodies. You need to go out into the world, find the melodies, help her restore her memory, and then you can stop, the big, bad, evil guy of the game, which is this alien called Geeg. That's Giege, Gieg. Those familiar with Earthbound might be like, well, I thought you said there was the same bad guy between both games, and Gygus is the bad guy in Earthbound. Gygus is the English localization of Gieg, but in the original Japanese text and in the Japanese version of Earthbound, it's Gieg. I don't know. I'm up in the air about whether I like Gieg or Gygus more, but you know, in this game he's Gieg, so I'm gonna stick with Gieg. Oh man. Right. So she tells you, hey, Gieg is the one causing all this. He and his starmen, they're wrecking the world. They've got these robots. They've got these mind controlling enemies. It's a whole bunch of stuff. You need to go out, find the melodies, help me restore my memories, and you need to stop Gieg because he's going to destroy the world. You know, and you hear about Gieg, and you're like, wow, this. So that's what's going on. And the Starmen, they've got the PSI. I've got the PSI. My grandfather must have come into contact with Gieg and the Starmen, and passed those PSI powers along to me. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And you find out that people are getting abducted, all that kind of stuff. But so now you have like a clear plot direction. Find the 8 melodies and defeat Gieg. All right. So from there, you are saying, all right, go out into the world, but you're thinking, okay, well, how do I leave Magicant? Dungeon time, baby. First dungeon of the game. So great. What you do is it's a bunch of picking paths. So you're presented with 2 doors. You go down one, you either pick right or you pick wrong, you go back up, you pick the right one, and then you get into this little miniature dungeon floor. You walk around, you fight a bunch of enemies that are just like eyeballs. You can find this sleeping dragon, but it's like, oh, you're not high enough level to fight the dragon yet. I don't know, I feel like I could defeat that dragon. But, you know what? There is an optional set of ladders that you can go down, and you can fight a fish. Like, it's a boss, it's a fish boss. The big fish boss. And if you defeat that fish boss, then you can get the Onyx Hook, which basically lets you teleport to Magicant anytime you want. I would highly recommend doing that, because the first time I played through, I did not get went to Magicant, I did not get the Onyx Hook, and basically, I had to go all the way back to the Swirly Spire, which took a lot of backtracking. I had to go all the way through the dungeon again. I had to fight the fish boss. I had to get the Onyx Hook, and from then I could teleport back to Magicant anytime I wanted. It's a bit of a hassle. Like, I do think that should have been like an item given to you by Queen Mary or one of her attendants, but like, yeah. So that's another point, like, in the games, but like Magicant overall, I would rate very highly. I think that's a very good part of the game. Even though you get out, and now you're in a new part of the world, and you say, okay, I'm gonna go to this next town, because you have a little map, and you can see, okay, I'm gonna go to this next town. I believe this town is Marysville. The first town is in Marysville. So you go there, you go to the school, you explore around for a bit. You can get sneezed on by kids and get sick, which is, okay, that's funny, but being sick is like a really bad thing in the game, so you have to go get it healed. You talk to a bunch of people, you talk to a janitor, you walk around, and, you hear about this loser named Lloyd, and it's like, oh, that guy's such a freaking loser, he's a nerd. So you're like, I should find this kid named Lloyd. So you make your way all the way up to the ceiling, you get past the janitor and everything. And, so you get there and you're up on the roof and there's a trash can. So you interact with the trash can, and as it turns out, Lloyd, our buddy Lloyd, is hiding in the trash can because the kids bully him and make fun of him and beat him up and, like, write nasty things on his desk. So, that's a bit of a problem. wouldn't want to be Lloyd. It's freaking trash can boy. But no. So, and he says, "Hey, listen, I'm scared of you, to be honest. But like, if you go and get me a bottle rocket from Little Sweets Factory, then where they make bottle rockets, then I'll be your friend, okay? Because I really, really love those bottle rockets. And if you go and get me one, then it'll prove that you aren't going to beat me up, okay?" So you're like, yeah, all right. How bad could it be? How bad could it be? Get ready for the factory dungeons. There's there's three factory dungeons. One of them's optional. No, 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 you gotta do all three. Okay, whatever. Alright. Factory dungeons. So factory dungeons are these big they're one big map. It's not like the Magic Hand dungeon where it's like you went down a bunch of ladders. No, factory dungeons are this enormous map, like this huge, enormous thing. And it's a maze, a very, very nondescript maze that you just have to wander around. So you go to Little Sweets Factory. You're like, how bad could it be? You walk in, you have no idea where you are. You have to go up and down ladders and everything. I will admit, the factory dungeons are the worst part of the game for me. Like, I can go get behind grinding for experience. I can get behind all that. But the factory dungeons are just so little fun to play through. I hate them mostly. But, so you go through the factory dungeon, you finally get to the end, and you pick up a bottle rocket. You're beaten, you're bloody, you're at an extremely high level because of all of, like, the BS you just went through, but you finally make it through, and you have a bottle rocket. You limp back to Lloyd, you show him the bottle rocket, and he's like, "This is great. You're a real swell guy, Nintendo. Love you." Yeah, he doesn't kiss you, but you go into a classroom. He sets off the bottle rocket because he's a little crazy. He blows up the classroom. It's really funny. But yeah, so, and from that point on, Lloyd decides, "Hey, you're not mean to me like the other kids. I really feel like I should go with you and be your friend, okay?" And so you do. And the second biggest problem of the game, aside from the factory levels, Lloyd joins your party at level 1. Level 1, that's great, because I don't know how to describe it, but like, Lloyd is super friendly. Lloyd's already weak. He is the weakest party member in the game. And him joining you at level 1 just kind of makes that even worse, because at this point, you've got to go to Magic Hand. You've got to kill a bunch of enemies. As Nintendo, Lloyd is just hanging around in the background. You can get items to make him stronger. You can equip him with the best gear possible. But he is just such a liability at that point in the game. Like, it's not even that funny. Like, he's at level 1. So you're always inherently going to be at a higher level than Lloyd. And he can't use PSI. Like, Lloyd's main mechanic is that he can use items that the other people can't use. Like, he can use, like, pencil rockets, he can use bottle rockets, he can use bombs, he can use all sorts of things that, flamethrowers, that the other characters cannot use. And, you know what, that's a fine enough idea for the concept. It's such a good concept that Jeff borrowed the exact same concept. Like, Jeff is just Lloyd, except I honestly like Lloyd a bit more than Jeff. But no, so you go through all of that. So you have to grind up Lloyd to the point where he isn't just instantly folding to any enemy you fight. And, after you do that, it's like, alright, Lloyd, we're gonna go out, we're gonna look for these 8 melodies. And Lloyd's like, well, here's the problem. We can't take, like, the train, we can't go on the railroad tracks, because there's this big pile of rubble blocking the railroad tracks. So how are we going to get through this? Lloyd's like, I've got a brilliant idea, Nintendo. Let's go to Duncan's factory and launch a bottle rocket and destroy those rocks. And then you start getting flashbacks to the little sweet factory, and you're like, I'm gonna go through another factory. So, but this time it's you and Lloyd being friends. So you get there, you have this pathetic meatbag Lloyd. You fight your way through another, even bigger dungeon, factory level. But you get to the top. Lloyd's like, hey, here we go. And he primes one of the rockets, sets it off, boom. And it's like, all right, Nintendo, we did it. So you go all the way back to the train tracks, and you continue forward through the train tracks. You can get attacked by trucks and fat ladies, and you can take burgers from them. You get attacked by like criminals and nooses, like living sentient nooses. You get and a funny little detail here is that Nintendo actually has asthma, and he can be afflicted by like a status from like cars and trucks where they blow smoke out at you that only affects Nintendo. And I think that's a really, really fun little bit of characterization that he has asthma and can. All right, let me slow down for a bit. But like, so yeah, so you go through all that kind of stuff. You can fight some robots here, these robotic women. Funny little thing is that so the robots have like chest plating reminiscent of breasts. They're of course robots. They don't have breasts. No boobs. Robot boobs. In the Japanese version, like the original release of the game, like the robots had a bit more shading and detail, but in the US localized version of the game, like they removed 1 pixel from the robots' chests, which could imply that they had robot nipples. So that's just funny to me. So you go through the subway, you emerge onto the other side, and you're like feeling good. And you're thinking, wonder where that fourth melody is, but it's not a big deal. So, and from here you get to another town, and you can finally take the train. You can take the Paradise Line. So you hop on that train, you ride all around, and you can go to 3 different towns from here. You can go to Reindeer, Snowman, or Spokane. And you're like, this seems pretty cool. This seems pretty cool. Telling you now, Reindeer is not the place you want to be. The only thing you need to do in Reindeer is stop by Reindeer. You need to talk to this old woman at the train station. She'll give you a hat of this young girl lost her hat. This woman's like, oh, can you take this hat back to her? She lives in Snowman. And you can be like, yeah, sure, that sounds pretty cool. After that, just leave Reindeer. But you can go on a little side quest to like get a bunch of cold medicine from this old guy who lives on top of a mountain and sell it for a profit, but like that's completely optional content, So, and I wouldn't recommend it. I've never done it, but I've heard it could be fun, but you don't need to do it. The only reason to stop at Reindeer is to get the hat. So from there, you should go to Snowman, and you should, walk all around. You hear people talk about, oh, there's this girl up at the church, poor thing, her parents have gone missing, and, well, her mom's gone missing. And so it's like, oh, that's the girl who lost her hat. So you go to the church, you give the girl back her hat. She's like, oh, Nintendo, I knew you'd come. I had a vision of you. He said, yeah, I'm trying to find my mom. I'm pretty sure she was abducted. I can't, she's gone missing. Could I come with you? Because I had a vision about you. And you're like, yeah, sure. And this girl is Anna. Her equivalent from Earthbound is Paula. They both, and as you might have guessed from her having visions, Anna is also... She's also a PSI user, and at level 1, just like Lloyd when you first get her. So after that point, it's like, alright, we should really find that 4th melody. So what you do is you go to Spokane. That whole town's totally abandoned. There's one inn where you can go in and talk to this guy, but once you sleep there and fully heal, he reveals himself to be a Starman. And this is the first, actual Starman. Not a Starman Jr. you can fight. You beat him up. You do all kinds of stuff. Great things. Great things all around. But let's see. So, after that, you, Anna, and Lloyd, you're like, alright, we're gonna go out and we're going to explore this manor in Spokane. Keep getting attacked by like bears and wolves. Um, but no, so you go to this abandoned manor in Spokane. You fight your way through all these creepy enemies, cool stuff. I like that dungeon. And you inspect this piano at the very end. You play the piano. Well, the piano plays itself, and that gives you the fourth melody. So yeah, so in the time between the third and fourth melodies, you go to Magic Hand, you get an exposition dump about the villain of the game and what's going on. You learn your primary objective. You get two party members. You know, you do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, you go through a ton of dungeons. It's great. It's just a bit funny that the third and fourth melodies are so disparate. Um, but no, so you've got that fourth melody from the piano. From there on, you keep exploring. You go back up north because Spokane, Snowman, and Reindeer are all in the south area. You go back up. You exit the train station. You explore some towns. You can go into the desert. In the desert, there's an alternate entrance to Magic Hands. It's not really important since you have the Onyx hook that you can use at any time. Um, but no, so you go there, you keep getting stronger. Like the enemies also get way, way stronger. To get into the second entrance to Magic Hand, you actually have to defeat this boss, which is like this robot. And and it's not like the woman robots. This one's like a big, like colossal titan robot. I really like the enemy. It's an optional boss. It's like a gray robot with like clenched fists, and the perspective in the battle. It's a small sprite, but like it really looks like a bunch of children looking up this huge behemoth robot. I really like the art direction of it. But no, you can go through that dungeon and go to Magic Hand. But the important thing to do here is talk to this guy in the desert who is selling plane tickets, and he's like, "Hey, I'll buy some plane tickets. Buy a ton of them. I'll take you on a tour." Well, no, you have to buy it, and you can ride it when it's his tank around, right? And the only way to defeat like the gray robot defending the second entrance to Magic Hand is to buy the tank and use the tank to destroy the robot, which will otherwise he'll just like instantly kill you a bunch of times. So you have to use the tank. He destroys the tank, but you destroy the robot. You have to buy like 5 plane trips from the guy who sells you the tank, and he'll take you on a ride around the desert. And as he does, he'll circle around this cactus a few times with a face on it, and then he'll fly back, and that's your clue. Oh, I need to go check out that cactus. And when you do, it's got the fifth melody. I will admit, people complain a lot about that cactus because if you didn't buy all those plane tickets from that guy, then he would have never known about it. But, like, yeah, so that's the fifth melody. Just a cool singing cactus. Um, I don't know. I like the tank. I like all that kind of stuff. It's cool. Okay. Um, Whatever. So you keep going from there. You. What is the sixth melody? Give me just a second. Sixth melody. What is it? Cactus. Oh, right. Never mind. Sorry. Okay. So at this point, you explore like this town called Youngtown, where all the adults have been captured by like Geeg and his goons. All right, and it's just a bunch of children left. It's a pretty depressing part of the game, honestly, to like see all these children so scared because their parents are all missing. And Anna, same thing happened to her. So you're like, oh, we've got to defeat Geeg. Look what he's done to this world. It's so terrible. There is a lot of emotional weight in Youngtown. You don't do a huge amount, but it is important, okay, to the story overall. So from there, you keep going, and you make it to this town called LA. That's Ellay. It's a play on words of LA, of course. But you get there, there's a bunch of, skateboarding, people in like hoodies and in the Japanese version, they're smoking, but like they removed in the U.S. version. Boring. Okay, but no. And they're all part of this gang, and eventually, you can make it to this nightclub And a woman at the nightclub offers you drinks, and if you take the drinks, then the police storm in and are like, "You're underage drinking," and they drag you away to jail, not the woman who just offered a kid alcohol. And he steals all your items. You have to buy them off of him. It's kind of funny. Um, but no, so the main thing you want to do in the nightclub is like sing a song. And in the game, the characters sing All That I Needed Was You and the little 8-bit chiptune version. They do a little dance. It's very cute. Um, and when you do that, the leader of the gang shows up. His name is Teddy. And Teddy is like, you kids have been running around roughing up my gang. I'm gonna show you what for. So he challenges you to a fight. In the Japanese version, he's got a knife, but in the U.S. version, he's just check out my fist. Yeah. So you fight him, you beat him up, and he's like, "Hey, listen, you're strong. I respect that, and I see now that you weren't trying to disrespect me." And he says, "Listen, uh, my mom and dad got kidnapped by those aliens. I want to, fight back against them, and I figure you guys are strong enough to help me." And he says, "Hey, you kid with the glasses, you look super weak. Get out of here. You can't handle this." So he replaces Lloyd in your party, right? Like he takes all of Lloyd's items, and Teddy, just like Lloyd, cannot use PSI, but he does have a really strong attack, and he comes in at level 25, not level 1. Thank goodness. I don't know why they didn't do that for Anna and Lloyd, but take what you can. All right. So Teddy is very good for this part of the game. Now, there's a few things you can do at this point, but if you're following like the progression of the melodies, the next thing you would do would be to go to Magican and go into that dungeon below Magican and fight the dragon that I mentioned. Once Ninten is a high enough level, you can wake up the dragon. You, Anna, and Teddy can fight it. And once you defeat it, it'll sing you the sixth melody. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty sick dragon, and you can use all of Ninten's Psi abilities. Teddy just getting his swords up in there. Pooh from Earthbound is definitely inspired by Teddy with his weapon being a sword, and Pooh has like minor Psi abilities, but Teddy has just none whatsoever. Whatever. And I mentioned Pippi uses the base stats and level progression of a character you meet later in the game, and that would be Teddy. So Pippi is just level 1 Teddy, which is why she levels up so quickly, because you're supposed to encounter Teddy at level 25. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so basically you take Teddy, you go up, and it's like, all right, we're gonna climb Mount Itoi. Itoi being the guy who worked on the game, did all kinds of stuff. Great guy, love him. And so it's like, all right, we gotta climb Mount Itoi. That's where my parents were taken. Let's go up there. So you're fighting your way up Mount Itoi, and this is where like the enemies just get ridiculous. Okay, like you're fighting these enemies that all have like these instant kill attacks, and by this time you've got 2 Franklin badges. Okay, but you've got 3 party members, so you can only protect 2 of your party members from the instant kill attack. So it's like, all right, and some enemies have like the attack that instantly kills all of your party members. So it's like, okay, yeah, one of them's just gonna die, and so the enemies have a huge amount of health, and it's just Jesus Christ. Okay, all right. So you're fighting your way through. Teddy is, busting stuff up, and eventually you find this little safe house at the halfway up the mountain. And you stop in. There's an old man. You can talk to your dad on the phone. All this kind of stuff. And Teddy's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna stay out here and stand guard." And you and Anna, go into this private room, and Anna confesses that she's developed feelings for Ninten and asks him to dance with her. So they do a little song and dance. The song "Fall in Love" plays. It's very cute. Yeah, it's a wonderful little moment in the game. So you have your little dance number. And she's like, "Oh, Ninten, do you love me?" He's like, "Oh, I knew it. I love you too." It's very sweet. Okay, but the moment is interrupted when Teddy barges in and he's like, "Hey, there's trouble. You gotta come outside and help me." And so you go outside, and you're attacked by another one of those robots, like the gray robot that was guarding the entrance to Magicant. This one's a blue robot, and it's like reaching out towards you. It's I love the sprite art. Um, and so you fight, but it's just knocking you down one after another, and Teddy takes the brunt of the attack. But Lloyd comes in and, with the tank rented from the airplane guy and destroys the robot. And but he was just a bit too late, and Teddy already took a huge amount of like damage from the robot. And so he picks you all up. He takes you all to, a safe house further down the mountain. But Teddy is just in critical condition, and he tells Lloyd, "Hey, you got to be strong now. You've got to, step up for me and be brave." And so Teddy is out of the game now. In the Japanese version, it's implied that he dies at this point. In the American version, they add a little thing at the very end of the game where it's like, "Oh yeah, Teddy recovered fully." But for all intents and purposes, Teddy is basically gone, and Lloyd rejoins the party with the newfound, "All right, I have to be strong. I have to finish Teddy's mission. I have to help save the world. I can't be a coward anymore." It's really great. You do actually meet Lloyd's dad at another point in the game. He's also hiding in a trash can. He's not very confident of his son, but it's cool. But like, this is Lloyd's character arc. He fills in for Teddy. He has to be braver. He has to use his intelligence to help save the day. Um, but yeah, so at that point, you, Anna, and the newly rejoined Lloyd, you make your way back up the mountain. You know, you find this little pond at the base of the mountain that Lloyd's able to fix a boat to go into the center of. You get sucked down in a whirlpool, and it turns out this is your great-grandfather's laboratory. This is where he did all of his experiments on PSI, and, this is technically the third factory level. But so you're going down, you know, and Lloyd manages to find this little robot, this big, nice, it's a nice robot that you meet. It says, Lloyd fixes it up, it says, "Hello, my name is Eve. I was built by your great-grandfather because he knew that one day the aliens would return. My primary mission is to protect Earth," you know? And Eve's really great, and she follows you around the back of your party. She helps you in battle, she's super strong, she's great. Like, she's very wonderful. And you make your way up the mountain with Eve protecting you and, helping you get through everything. Um, and eventually, right before the top of the mountain, the third one of those big robots attacks you. The one was gray, one was blue, this one's red. Got both hands reaching out towards you. Um, and the robot's trying to kill all you Anna, and Lloyd, but Eve is just taking attack after attack, and letting the rest of you whittle it down, but you can barely do anything, and eventually Eve just, self-destructs and takes the robot with her, and, as she dies, the last thing she does is play the seventh melody from inside her chest cavity, and then shut down and die. It's a pretty sad part of the game. But so you climb your way up to the very top of the mountain, and you find your great-grandfather's headstone. And, he speaks to you there's a recorded message there. He says, "My great-grandson, I don't think he refers to you specifically, but he says, I knew this would come to pass. I've left a recorded message here saying, you who have come here, you must defeat Geeg. If he is allowed to continue, he will destroy the world. I escaped from the aliens, and I took the knowledge of their PSI because I knew that it could be used to defend the Earth. But the aliens were angry at me. They thought that humans would be too dangerous if they had the power of PSI, and so they vowed to destroy the Earth. I have spent my years trying to figure out a way to defend the Earth with the power of PSI, and you, my descendant, you are the one who can do it. Take the final bit of the melody, return to Geek and destroy him. I believe in you. You can do it. That whole section was sort of added in the U.S. version. Um, in the uh, in the Japanese version, you just got the final melody from Queen Mary. But basically, you get the eighth melody from George's headstone, and as soon as you do that, you are teleported back to Magic Hand, and you meet with Queen Mary, and you sing her the full eight melodies, and she's like, "Oh, I remember now," and said, "I am Maria. I was George's wife," and she talks about George, how much she loved him, but how she and George were abducted by the aliens and used as surrogate mothers for Guy himself because the alien race, they didn't really have a way to raise the child, and they wanted, to get Maria to raise him. And whereas George was always resentful of the aliens for abducting him, was always trying to find a way to escape, Maria actually grew to care for Geek and began to view him as a child. And when George escaped, she chose to stay behind. And eventually, she did like die, but but only after raising Geek as a child and him imprinting on her. Um, but then, when news came out that George had escaped to Earth and taken knowledge of PSI, Geek was assigned the mission to destroy George, his adoptive father, and he was torn by grief about it. And essentially Maria's spirit lingered on in Magic Hand because of the unfinished business she had on Earth, to see that Geek would be able to overcome his emotional turmoil and, cognitive dissonance, if you know, over like the whole thing of being sent to destroy the world of the people who had raised him. And as she's telling you all of this, Magic Hand is dissolving around her because her spirit is finally moving on. And she, tells you that Geek is not evil, and that the way you can defeat him is by reminding him of her and the memories of her raising him. And it's revealed that the melody you've been collecting was actually the lullaby that she would sing to Geek when he was a baby and she was raising him. She says, if you sing that melody to him, then it may trigger some memories and cause him to flee. Saying, please do this for me, defend the Earth from Guy, and save my son. And it is a really sad moment. And then she fades away into stardust and, ascends into heaven or wherever she goes. Who knows? But, so you now have your new mission, alright? So then you go to like the final level of the game. All right, you've got to, ascend the mountain one final time. Go up into the alien, go into the bowels of the mountain. You see the pods where they've taken all the parents from Youngtown. Anna meets her parents trapped in the pods, and she says, "Don't worry, I'll save you. I'll get you out." You, Lloyd, and Anna delve into the mountain now with the melody in your heads. And you finally make it to the very top, and you see Geek's mothership, coming in, and his pod, and he attacks. He comes in, and right, he's like this. His design's actually very inspired. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so the same person who designed Geek also helped design Mewtwo. I'm pretty sure, because they've got very similar designs. I think it was confirmed in an interview. So you've got this Mewtwo-looking guy in like this alien pod, and you got to defend against him, and because you can't really attack him, like attacking him does nothing. And also you've been told by Maria, hey, don't attack him. He's my son. I love him. And so he monologues to you for a bit while attacking. Like for the first 5 or so turns of battle, like he's using these inexplicable attacks against you. Because if you remember from Earthbound, where the final boss is Gygas, it says, you can't describe what Gygas is doing. And in this game, it's sort of similar because it says the form of Geek's attack was inexplicable. Right, and so what you've got to do is like Geek monologues to you for a bit. He's like, Nintendo, so we meet again. We meet for the first time. It's like, listen, I'm grateful to your family for raising me, but George took what from my people that is huge threat to us and threatens us as a species, and so you Earth people must be destroyed. He goes on for a bit about how inferior he views the Earth people as. It's pretty clear that he's putting it on and that he's just saying these things to himself to like try and convince himself to do all this. Eventually he does sort of crack and is like, listen, Nintendo, I will let you and only you live. Just give up, stop fighting, and I'll let you survive. You don't have to die, okay? And it's at that point that he becomes vulnerable and you can start singing the melodies at him. And, every time you do, he's getting angrier and angrier. He's like, stop singing that song, that accursed song, stop. And he's like mentally deteriorating and his actions are becoming more and more at odds with his thoughts and beliefs. And eventually, after you sing to him about 11 times, he completely mentally breaks and he's just like, how could I have been beaten by a song like that? And he's like, Nintendo, hear me, I will return, but... And he just runs away as fast as he can because he can't deal with, the memories, coming back to him. It's a pretty impactful final boss. Gameplay-wise, it's not that great, but, all things considered, it's a very good final boss for, an NES game, from a story perspective. Just watching Guy, go through all of this grief and emotional turmoil, it's such a, how do you say, ambitious story to tell with an NES game. But so Guy gets back in his ship, gets away as fast as he can, flies away, and, the characters, they free all the people that were captured by the Starman and Geeg. All the parents reunite with their children. Teddy recovers. Anna and Nintendo keep in touch through letters, and they are still in love and stuff. Lloyd goes back to his hometown and is regarded as a hero for helping save the world. Teddy recovers and sings at the nightclub. Nintendo goes back to live with his family. And at this point, George and Mary's spirits are able to move on, and because they fulfilled their peace, Guy is just absolutely mentally distraught, but his forces have withdrawn from Earth, and everything is back at peace again. It's really great. You know what? And the last little finisher of the game is Nintendo's dad is calling Nintendo saying, hey, something came up. So, you know what? So overall, my thoughts on the game, it's a good game, okay? It's good, but it has a lot of problems, story-wise, character-wise, all that kind of stuff. I love it. But, gameplay-wise, it really struggles from, the limitations of the hardware, design choices made throughout development, all that kind of stuff. So, I like it. The game has a very special place in my heart, but it's not for everyone, and from a certain perspective, it's really not for anyone. But I absolutely think that if you play it with an emulator, if you're able to make save states, then it is worth experiencing, even just for the story, characters, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have the same level of quirky humor that Earthbound does, but it still does a lot with its characters, settings, world. And like I said, if you're an enjoyer of NES games, then you should absolutely give Mother 1 a try. That's about all I have to say. All right. See you around.